Perfect. So first, can you please introduce yourself in your own words?
Hmm. One word, filmmaker or
Yes.
still the sale, one of them.
Brilliant. And so your film, firstly, congratulations, is going to be on the list for the Oscars. And I think it's a first. It's the first time an Iraqi film is considered. So how do you feel after such an announcement?
Oh no, we just got on the short list. Sorry, I understand.
About you, the nomination to the Oscars.
Yeah, we haven't made it yet, but
Oh,
yeah. Because it's still they haven't announced. But we are on the short list, which is the first for Iraq. And honestly, it's just to be on the short list with such great, companions of such great filmmakers and films, and company of such great filmmakers and film, honestly, just feels very, very like thrilling and honestly, and also honorable.
of course. So the film already had a wonderful reception in festivals like Cannes and other places. And it's really striking because it feels like a very Iraqi film. And as we said, it's one of the first time that a film from Iraq goes to such a Western place as the Oscar. So how does it make you feel? Do you feel that you really wanted to be a bridge between audiences at home and audiences in the West?
Um, I no, I don't think I was trying to be that. I was trying to tell a very local story, but I think stories are have very universal elements, which is, how you experience the emotional impact of the characters, the emotional journey of the characters. And I think that's because I th- I was specific about that, I think, because we were trying to get, very specific about these elements, the individual, the specific, the locality of the story, honestly, is what made it accessible for the international audience. Because as you said, the film is very Iraqi. It's told from with non-actors. It's told in very. It's shot inside Iraq fully. So everything is about the story is Iraqi, but maybe the themes, the journey, the emotional elements of the film is what, makes it even more universal.
That's interesting. Also, this takes us back to a period that I think is very defining, where our world and globally really started to shift, with repression of the regime against Saddam and how it impacted our relation
Yeah.
between the West and the Middle East. But for you, it's also, I'm sure, a very personal story, and you took a lot from your own childhood. So, how did you work on that? Did you also do some research to gather stories from other children?
Um, in a way, maybe in a way, yes, there were, because we sometimes, as friends, as family, as individuals who speak about our experiences in childhood, what we faced in during the sanctions, because it was such an important part of our life. So, yes, some of them were implemented in the film from stories from friends, family members. And but at the same time, we did also some research for the production in a sense of like the design, the costumes, the colors, all that. But this is a period that we lived through, so it is also something we know very well. And but even despite the research, you actually get faced by limited resources that you can find. Unfortunately, at that time, there weren't so many documentation of, for example, streets and architecture architects in Iraq. So we really had to, depend on what we have and then go to our own memories and relatives to see if this matches with the period too.
And I guess also what influenced the way you could write the film was the location where you filmed, right? There's a lot
Yeah.
of outdoor scenes, very beautiful landscape, and then the city urban areas where the children are wandering about with this crazy task of finding the food to make a cake under sanctions and restrictions. So was this an important thing for you that part of Iraq to be able to put it into picture?
Yeah, we actually had to gamble about that because making a film inside Iraq had many challenges in its own. And but for me, I think stories have DNAs. They are rooted in certain location, identity, country, and for this, especially a story like this that has like very unique, very specific locations, couldn't be done or shot in anywhere outside Iraq. And we actually received a couple of offers to be fully financed, but on condition to shoot outside Iraq. And I immediately I didn't hesitate to reject such offers because if a foreign filmmaker doesn't make their films in Iraq, and if a Iraqi filmmaker doesn't get to make their films in Iraq, then who gets to tell stories from Iraq? What excuse do we have to tell our own, our own artists, our own people that we couldn't make this film in Iraq? So breaking this stigma about shooting a film, telling a story from Iraq, about Iraq was something also I think was detrimental for us in making this film. And there was a point that I was trying to mention that slipped my mind. But yeah, I mean, overall, art has to benefit the community, and I think making a film or films in Iraq benefits the community of, aspiring artists, people, individuals who want to tell their own stories, want to express themselves artistically through cinema and other mediums. And that's why, for me, I think it was just important to shoot this film in Iraq, just as I think anybody has the right to shoot and tell story about their country and shoot that film in their country too.
And for all these reasons, it makes it a bit of a first in many ways. You know, it's your first film. It's one of these rare films that film there, and it's looking back at a special time. So it must have been a really open door to creativity for you. Did you start with some inspiration? I would say that myself, when I saw the film, I thought a lot about Italian realism and a lot of Iranian films, like, of course, The White Balloon. I'm sure a lot of people told you that. But what was your ideas, like to make something very different from what you like, or you really drove from inspiration that made you want to be a filmmaker?
I mean, every story has its inspirations in a way, and I think, as you said, you touched upon a couple of eras and films that probably were serving as inspirations, whether it was De Sica, Rossellini, Panahi, or like Kiarostami, and or like Angelopolis, Antonio, like all, there are filmmakers around the world that any storyteller gets inspired by. And definitely, I was inspired by certain filmmakers, but at the same time, I try to give this film my unique voice, to have its own unique stamp, if I may say, because you can be sometimes you can eventually I wanted to make my own poems. I wanted to make my own poetry inspired by my own memories, my culture, country, because every culture and country is different, and films usually, introduce us to those places, locations, and different cultures. So in a way, I think it's very important to take inspiration in a meaning of what you can achieve and what can you artistically challenge, how can you artistically challenge yourself. But like, I never thought about, copying the other artists, copying other filmmakers, because eventually that will just cheapen the story, that will cheapen the film at the end. So in a way, yes, I was inspired by so many filmmakers, and I think for this specific film, a lot of Italian neorealism and a lot of Spanish magical realism came to mind.
Yes, of course, especially I think all those scenes in the waters on the boat.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
But also you're really focusing on the children. And I guess for a first film, it's not the easiest actors to direct. Did you rely on this sort of freshness? Would the kid like kind of make the story come alive? Or did you really have in mind how they should behave and incarnate the role, especially the little girl? I mean, she's quite unique in this mix of naivety and strength.
I mean, the thing is, we did street casting for all of our actors, and since early days, sorry. Do you want to say something?
Oh no.
Uh, and since the early days of writing the film, I knew that we will work with non-actors, and I knew that I needed the kids who can carry this film on their shoulder. And but at the same time, I didn't want them to be actors too, in a way, or like I didn't want to turn them into actors. So I had to find kids who were close to the characters and close to the people that I wrote on the paper. But at the same time, as an artist, you need to know that it's life. So sometimes what you have on the paper needs to be adapted to what the life is giving you, and in a way allow life to breathe into it. And that was very important because we are working with an actors, we are working with real locations, we are working with, very many different elements that are unusual for other films. And that in a way taught me as a filmmaker how important it is to keep your eyes and ears open to what life is giving you. Whether it was a location, a new location, or whether it was an actor or a non-actor who is giving you a different performance than you had imagined, or is giving you different vibe that you had on the paper. And sometimes that gives it another element that even me as a writer couldn't, imagine that such a cast will bring it to the screen. And I believe we were very lucky with the kids because they did an unbelievably wonderful job. BB did an amazing job, and everyone in the cast really brought such a unique feeling to the characters and the film overall that really made this film special. And I hope that people around the world see that also when they watch the film.
Brilliant. And because you filmed on location in Iraq with Iraqi non-professional actors, was the whole team local and Arabic speaking, or some of your team also came from the US? And what was the balance for you?
Yeah, we had a very multinational crew, local, foreign crew, but that was on again because our industry in Iraq is very preliminary in the way that it's functioning because we don't have so many films made in Iraq every year. Yes, every one film every couple of years. So there are lots of positions that we need to, either gain more experience on or to create in order for the films to reach a standard level or like international standards. But it was also important to me, again, from the idea that art should benefit the community. It was important that even the foreign crew and the head departments that come from outside Iraq to have Iraqi fellows with them to mentor them so they can gain more experience, they can gain insight into what is like, acceptable acceptable in the sense of uh sort of like how to acceptable in a sense of like what is the standard on working on this department or that department, because that's very important in films.
Of course. And then I know the film is coming out in the UK very soon. Is it
Yeah.
also coming out in Iraq and I guess so many parts of the world? So are you going to travel to both area and what do you expect for the rest of the year?
The film came out in Iraq in February. We had a limited run, but we are doing another wide release in March. So we already have received very well response inside Iraq, and now it's just about the time to release the film widely in theaters in Iraq. And about the rest areas, regions of the world, it has been tremendous because we have been blessed about how the audience globally has responded to the film, whether it was in Cannes or in London, or like, in San Sebastian, or even in Paris. So this has been overwhelmingly such a thrilling journey and also such a unique experience for not only me but for everyone who put so much love and care into this film.
Yeah, I'm sure. So we all cross our finger for the Oscars. How do you feel about that? Does it still matter, or just being listed at some point is tremendously helpful for the film?
Look, I think just being on the short list is such a tremendously helpful and honorable thing. but doesn't matter. I think it matters not only to me as a filmmaker, even if I want to be selfish, but also I think it matters to other countries that always, because I think it's very important that we tell people where the cinema is going through, where the cinema is heading to. And having countries like Iraq, who has never been nominated before, to have the chance to be nominated or get nominated, that honestly, it just tells you that how globally is cinema, what should cinema be, and also it gives so much inspiration for other nations who also haven't had the chance to get their films nominated, because eventually I think the Oscars has become such like a World Cup in sports, when all the nations get together and they aspire that the film get to the final, or like, and again, I think it's not about just me as a filmmaker, it's also about as a nation to be recognized, to see how far we can go with a local story, and other nations and other artists who want to also tell their own stories, to bring their own very unique perspective of their memories. I think that's very important.
Yeah, of course. And then maybe finally, I know you're already working on other films, projects, and stories. Do you want them to be set in Iraq, or you also want to be able to tackle other stories in other places?
I tackle the story, a good story, wherever it is. Maybe my next project is, I'm still thinking about it in more specific way, because, you have certain ideas and it's just about, seeing which one works best. But I think stories, you can tell them. It's about what the story requires. If it's a story that requires to be in Iraq and shot in Iraq, then it's a story that requires to be that. But to answer your question, I don't want to limit myself into only one country, but I want to make sure that every story I tell, I bring an authentic perspective to it.
Wonderful. Is there anything else you'd like to tell our audience?
No, nothing much. I hope that they would enjoy the film. It's, out in UK in February 13, and other places also. Maybe they can check it out, but I really hope that they enjoy the film, and somehow that it also, reaches them and speaks about something about their own history, about their own memories in childhood.
Yeah, for sure. I remember when I saw it, a lot of people were very touched because it can be very sad and hard, but at the same time, there's a lot of light and humor, and there's big variety of emotions. So that's also very, very rare. So thank you for.
Yeah. And if they also want to take a journey to Iraq without, you know, paying for a ticket and flying, then it's a film for them to do.
That's great. Thank
Yeah.
you so very much. All the best.
Thank you very much. Thank you.